80% of Americans feel that the economy is causing significant levels of stress, and we know that stress is actually the underlying problem behind a lot of disease. So yeah, we're definitely feeling it, and it seems that there's this one perspective on the problem, basically, that we're kind of being poked from every angle as far as our health is concerned. And then in order to treat it, we're turning to health systems that don't really heal us. We have doctors whose interests are not always for the benefit of a patient. What do I mean? They're not evil people, obviously, but they work within a system that is profit-driven and interest-driven. Back in ancient times, for example, in China, when a doctor would visit his patients, because back then, the patients wouldn't come to doctors, it was vice versa. The way that he would know whether to go into a house or not is whether there was money in the jar outside the house. So if there was money outside the house in the jar, that means that everybody in the house is healthy. There's no need to go in. Now what we're seeing the opposite. Basically, patients need to remain sick in order for doctors to make a profit. And then there's obviously the whole other industry behind it, the pharmaceutical industry, the surgical industry. It's all industry-driven, profit-driven, and it doesn't really heal the patient. So we're sick, and we don't have systems that heal us. So the question stands, are we really in a state of crisis? And also, the reason why I pose this question is because we're seeing that health, it seems to me anyways, from what we're seeing, is if recession and the financial crisis is causing stress, anxiety, depression, it seems like it's really global. We're seeing a lot more pandemics right now as well, such as the swine flu. So it seems to be a problem that's not just at the level of our level, but rather it's greater. It's really global now.
Well, I think this whole topic generally divides into two main questions, I think. One is we're seeing new diseases and new forms of diseases, and can we treat them? Do we have the tools and the needed knowledge and all the required things to take care of that? That's one question I see here. And the other question is what you raised with that story about how it was in ancient Chinese culture, is what's the motivation for treating people? What is the health system's motivation?
Yeah, in times of recession, for example, right now, one article in the Global Mail just reported, despite the recession, one industry that went up as well is prescription sales rose by $1.2 billion last year. And this is a Canadian article, so in Canada. But it's interesting to see how kind of a correlation between a financial crisis, yet this industry is kind of thriving.
Yeah, you mentioned that how it looks like there's a global problem, like you mentioned with the swine flu, which we were all aware of. And I think this is an important part of the solution, recognizing that it is a global problem. In general, in health, in medicine, in how we treat diseases, we, at least in the Western medicine, what we try to do is usually isolate the wounded area or the disease and treat it.
We don't treat the whole body, just
exactly. In Eastern medicine, from what I know, the approach is more holistic. But from Kabbalah's point of view, the health itself is also just a symptom of a much more global situation that we're in. And that situation is that just like in our bodies, in order for the body to work properly, to be healthy, it has to be in balance, in reciprocal balance between all of its elements, all of its parts. And this is maintained by each cell working for all the other cells in the body. For doctors, this is common knowledge that when a cell starts taking more for itself instead of living for the body, it develops into what we know as cancer. And what Kabbalah explains in that respect is that we as humans are also cells in a way of this giant body called the collective soul or the collective entity, that human family we live in. And if we want the body to be in balance, the body to be healthy, then we have to act like cells in a healthy living body.
What does that mean?
That means a lot, actually. That means that we need to. It means a lot in terms of how we should relate, feel, and think about our existence and the existence of humanity as a whole. But it doesn't mean that much in terms of what we actually do, because that level where we are as one is not on the physical level. On the physical level, just like cells in a body, we are isolated bodies. And we each should provide for our own body and so on. But on the level where we are whole, we have to become aware of it first. We have to develop this new sense of a wider perception, where we each realize that every individual is a part of that system. That's first. And then the second step would be to figure out what is the disease. The disease is our bad connection with each other. Just like when if a cell starts thinking about itself, so to speak, it develops into cancer, as we said before. In our situation, it happens in the same way, only it manifests in different levels and different realms of our lives. When we start thinking about ourselves as individuals, we create this influence in the general body, which is a bad influence, and an egoistic influence that drives the other cells, the other individuals, to think and work and feel in the same way, and this creates this broken, shattered perception of reality, this broken picture that we see in our world today, where we can't handle the problems.
Why are we only seeing it now?
That's actually a very important thing. We're seeing it now because up until the recent, to be accurate, Kabbalah puts a date on it, which is 1995. Until then, we weren't developed enough in our egoism to be that isolated, that alienated, and also, on the other hand, pushed to be united, to feel our existence as one holistic body. If you zoom out on humanity and you look at it from above or from aside, you would see that we're going through two parallel processes, and these processes are bringing us to a climax, to a dead end, really. One is the growth of our egoism. We become more and more introverted and focused on self, and everyone only cares for himself, and we're like 7 billion wolves trying to eat each other up. And this is evident in many ways in our lives. This is one process. On the other hand, nature, our purpose in nature, is pushing us to feel our existence as one body, and to become aware of that, and to create a healthy situation in that body. And that pressure on the one hand and our egoistic motive on the other hand are colliding.
So we can pretty much see this in the flu pandemic that we are looking at today. As much as we are far away from each other right now, we are still in connection, but in a wrong connection, which is manifesting as an illness, a true illness, and this is what we have to treat. Like you said, the connection between us.
Yeah, the swine flu, which Veronica mentioned, is actually, I think, is a good example, because it shows that we can no longer deal with problems locally. Even in our mindset, you can't isolate a problem and say, okay, this is the problem, I'm going to treat that, and everything else will be fine.